Hello, mamas. Welcome to another episode of You the Mom. I'm Janice, founder of Mommy Mundo. And as you know, here on You the Mom, we love sharing mom stories, especially those of real moms and mompreneurs, community builders, and purposeful women. Today, our guest is a multidisciplinary maker and co-founder of the community called CraftMNL, a maker space and hub for learning. She's been married for 8 years and is now a mom to two kids. She also co-owns Messy Baby Play, a resource for sensory play. Let's all welcome Marielle Nadal-Reyes. Hello,
Hi,
Marielle.
hi everyone. It's all welcome. I feel like, hi,
Hi, Marielle. Thank you for guesting here. I've been wanting to have you on. Yeah. As you know, we've always been, we've met maybe, you didn't have a baby yet.
No. I remember when we met. We hosted a birthday party, I think, for your niece
Yes,
at
my niece,
Craft,
baby.
and when we were at the collective pa. So that was probably like 8 years ago.
Yeah, maybe around
Roughly.
8 years ago.
We weren't married pa nga yan then yata.
Were you not married?
I'm not sure. I don't remember.
Hello,
But I
let's.
do remember we were at the collective.
Yeah, I remember Collective. Yeah, we met and then we've always tried to have you with us in our Mommy Mundo events. Thank you for always indulging us, and we've always wanted to partner with Craft MNL. I'm a believer in creativity and getting into activities and learning. So we share that passion. And so I'm so happy to reconnect with you after the crazy last 2 years.
Oh, yes.
Breathe.
Yes.
So I wanted to ask you, because finally we have the one of the faces behind Craft MNL. Her husband Lex is the other half, and I'm sure you've shared this story in other platforms before, but here on Mommy Mundo we like to talk about the mom side, mom entrepreneur side. So could you tell us? Although I know you started before you were married, so before you became a mom, but we will find out about the evolution of that community that you built as you became a mom and also lived your mom life. So first, how did you start Craft MNL? What was the reason you started it? What's your background like? And how did you decide to just do it with Lex?
Okay, so actually, Craft MNL was actually came about as an idea that I had while I was working pa with my previous organization. Prior to Craft Kasi, I had worked for a few years in the social entrepreneurship sector. I'm a graphic designer by training, and some friends and I had a group that catered specifically to development organizations and cause-oriented communications. So in the middle of doing that, so we were doing that for about almost about 5 years. And then after that, the idea for I don't know, the itch to make just kind of bit, and it kind of metastasized. No, sorry, using the word.
Oh no.
It kind of spread all throughout, the idea just permeated everything,
Yeah.
and yeah, I just couldn't let go of it. So Lex and I were already independently working on some projects together. And then we figured, okay, well, let's try it out. So let's try out this idea. And it was pretty vague to begin with.
Yeah.
It was basically, there was an intention of getting people together to learn and to make.
Yeah.
And what started out as like a Facebook page and a blog where we just started putting in content. Kasi when the idea bit, we just started talking to different people, just basically sharing the idea.
Other makers?
And in a way, sort of committing yourself to it, because you're telling other people,
Yes, yes.
okay, that's out of the bag, got to share it. And the uptake was pretty fast, in the sense that, okay, we were getting insights that making seemed to be parang aspirational in a sense, I guess. Sabi
Mm.
ko, I would jokingly say it was an offshoot of corporate stress that people were so interested in making. And there was
Keep
social
their hands
media.
busy. Yeah.
So parang ganon. And then and after that we were fortunate enough to be able to get a physical space, and it just kind of grew na rin from there. So the physical space we shared with Andrea and Shayna, another couple.
Oh, they were the ones who would make bicycles, right?
Yes, and screen
And the
printing.
screen printing. I took the class with them. The screen
Oh,
printing class. Yeah.
talaga? Okay, well, great then. Because their space, they divided their space at the collective, so we took over the other half.
Yes.
But then the sink area where you can clean stuff for their screens, we shared with them. So they were our first workshop, which was done in April 10 years ago. So it's our 10th
10 years
year
ago.
of craft.
Yes. Happy anniversary.
Thank you. But when I share about starting craft, we actually put our ideas onto a sheet of paper, because when it started growing a little bigger than and started going in different directions, we had to find a way to ground it in a way. And the way that I would explain it to other people needed some sort of structure.
Yes. Yes.
So I would say that we founded craft on like 3 pillars, which was more on community, knowledge, and enterprise. Oh my gosh, I still remember that. I still remember this spiel 10 years later. Community, knowledge, and enterprise. So the community was basically bringing other makers together, and it happened in many different ways, different from what we planned. So kasi so Andrea and Shayna came and taught with us, and then we had another printmaker friend teach with us, and then she would refer another artist friend. And so it's like, you can imagine a map with physically with spots glowing of there's a potter over here, or over here there's someone who can teach sewing. Yeah, knitter here.
Yeah.
And actually the first iteration of our website was a map.
Oh.
Wherein, yeah, I DIY'd the website.
Where the makers are.
Well, actually, yes, because just parang you'll be surprised there. Because apart from knowing where the makers are, you'll also be surprised at like the maker heritage that we actually have in different cities of Metro Manila. Kasi parang when you think of Metro Manila, you think na parang there's no culture of art. There's no, I mean, parang ganon, because it's all like city. So, but did you know there's pottery in Pasig? And it makes sense because of the river. So there was clay. So they actually had this culture and tradition there. And so it's still something we're actively investigating, but I digress. Yeah. Diba?
Wait, let's pause for a while. Let's tell people what CraftMNL is. How do you describe MNL, CraftMNL? How do you describe it in one sentence? Because I don't know, I saw it from the beginning. Like I don't know, maybe the algorithms. May social media na ba nun? Was there social media na? Facebook. But I did see your origins. Well, maybe not in the early series, but I did see like the posts on screen printing and the bikes and you guys, like the makerspace and all. So how do you describe it in those times when you had the studio? And I believe you were like a pioneer in the craft community. Like you really brought people together, as you said, coming out of the woodwork, so to speak. They probably would commune before in art schools and, in fine arts in UP or in galleries and wherever, but not in one space where they could actually bring their crafts to the general public. So I know that you really provided opportunities that were never there before, and communicated also what making means, and the different things that people could learn, and how they could keep their hands busy, and all that. How did you describe it in those? Well, I'm sure that's still part of your vision, except for the pandemic, of course. But how was it? How did you describe it back then?
Gosh, I don't quite remember that, but I would describe craft as a community, then a community of artists, makers, crafters, people who identify with one label or another. And it really, I mean, because we define community in different in a different, yeah, it has evolved in different
Yeah.
ways, and we also have evolved from that space, because we used to host Etsy craft parties and people come
Yeah.
over, and throughout the years it has sort of like grown into, so we developed the arts and crafts fair naman, the makers market, where we found the people who took our workshops, some of them made businesses, and then so we organized a venue for them to also be able to sell, because part of what we wanted to do was also impart an appreciation for handmade.
Yeah.
So and we wanted to mainstream that, so we would hold our arts and crafts fairs in malls and try at least to provide makers with affordable spaces then.
Yeah.
And you find a student selling along in next to their teacher, but
Yeah.
it
Cool.
was, yeah, it was, things were coming into different circles in that way. And as a community, in growing from people getting together, people doing things together,
Yeah.
and yeah, later on it would change, of course, because of physical gatherings, and then more of a loose gathering, and then later on during the pandemic, sort of like just a few people for everyone's safety. But I guess throughout the years there have been makers who have been there, people who have been there all
Yeah.
throughout, and it's sort of like a community in the sense that if you need something, or if support is needed, or a way to, help each other is there, then you're there. I mean,
Yes.
you're not always in
Yeah.
touch, you're not always
Yeah.
constantly communicating specific messages to specific people, but I guess in the sense, because we've all been there from
Yes.
way back, that kind of community sense of community holds, I
Yes,
guess.
that's true. And I think it's also a big thing about the makers market. You said earlier to make it mainstream, to make handmade mainstream. Just for the younger listeners, because now it's mainstream and it's actually
Yeah,
preferred, right?
fashionable.
Yeah, it's preferred. Like then, I mean, everyone is like anti fast fashion, and everyone wants to do like calligraphy instead of, I mean, it wasn't always like that. Like um 10 years ago, when you first thought of Craft MNL, that was really a vision, and I think it's come a long way, right? And the makers market, I was about to say that I think it's also hard. Like you have a craft and you would love to make things, but then if you don't have a market for it, or you don't have a way to reach the consumer, then I remember that, like, you get stuck with the things that you make, or you just give it away, which is doesn't really make sense. You also have to monetize and to make your passion sustainable. So I think that was really big thing for makers, not only to make handmade mainstream, but also to make their craft sustainable, right? And benefited everyone, I think. So I loved going to your makers fairs. So thank you for
Yeah.
thinking of doing that. But how was it, Marielle, when you became a mom? So Stella, your eldest daughter, who is like, I've
Oh.
never met anyone like Stella actually. When I met her in your messy baby play demo in BGC, she's a she's a special girl. I think growing up in your with your energy, with you and Lex, and in your community, like she grew up with your makers, right? Um,
She did.
yeah.
She
So how
did.
was it when you became a mom? So let's go to your mompreneur journey. How was it? Was she always like part of your business? Like was she always there? Like you'd have her with you? And then how did it
Oh
change in terms of the way you did things, or the way you thought of ideas and all that?
gosh, because Stella's 4 na now, diba? So at the beginning, of course, we were bit-bit ko siya parate because we were breastfeeding for like 2 years. And so she would come with me to workshops. She would play at the studio. She grew up at our studio in Makati, poking around things and playing with things, and I don't know, meeting people, and for me also, parang being exposed to me teaching and speaking, and she's my little helper. So it works in different ways. Parang when she was little, and we fortunately had a yaya until she was 1, and then afterwards, yun nga, she and her dad would go out on dates. So when I teach on weekends, they would drop me off. She and her dad would go on dates. They would go to the park, or when I don't know, there's a little play area for kids in Greenbelt before that. I know it's still there, I think. So she would hang out there. It was sort of like a treat for her. And then they'd come back, they'd pick me up, and we'd go home. That was how life was like. And from being just a couple to having a kid, that was an adjustment in itself. It was hardest, of course, in the first few months, because literally I was holding Stella while breastfeeding, and okay, Lex, we have a makers market next month. Can you please be my hands? I would literally tell, please be my hands and type this. So I need to send an email to everyone. So you type it out for me. And fortunately, we had we had folks on the team who would make space or make room for me to take a step back. And I think that's also very important. So yeah, so I mean, it'd be like when I would bring her over to the studio also, especially when we didn't have Ayay and Eren, like at random, like folks would just like take her aside, oh, here, or would accommodate her curiosity, but what's that? And so you'd find her fiddling with things or playing with things, or doing things, and yeah, it was really nice to see. But we're also, she is at that stage now, though. Sometimes when we go to the workshop, she's like, can we go home now?
Oh yeah.
Sometimes she's like that na, kasi I'm busy doing some other things, and there's no one to like really engage with her sometimes. So can we go home now? Or she'll find something to play with sometimes. It really depends. But from 1, tapos naging 2 na sila.
Yeah.
The differences was also another adjustment, syempre. Stella, I could bring her wherever with me, and when she get hungry, breastfeed, just pop her on. But now if I have to teach physically at the workshop or be away, I can't bring Paco with me, because pandemic.
That's right.
So even if we're limiting teaching face to face, like just to 3 people right now at the studio, he stays here. And so a new experience naman for me, I had to really make good on like storing, pumping, storing, trying to
breast milk.
Alam mo yan, it's such like if there's pressure now on and because like it sort of like multiplies, no? So you have another baby to take care of, plus your eldest kid, it's time, diba? And attention, actually even more time and attention now more than ever. And then sometimes like when I have workshops to teach, so I have to think of make the plan for the business.
Logistics,
and then get pressured to pump enough milk to make sure Paco doesn't go hungry. So medyo cray siya in that sense. But thankful nga na, I am thankful that Lex and I are in this together.
Yes.
So
I always say that for mompreneurs, it's important to have your partner or husband's participation and support, right? So if not, it's like double cry. It's like it's like a battle, like, but if they're there, like you really have that support and you don't feel so guilty all the time to like Like when he was bringing out Stella while you were working, you knew that she was okay, right? So
Mhm.
yeah, so good job, Lex.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, we've
Yeah.
he takes on a bigger role actually here at home than traditionally than I do. Especially when I got pregnant, he took on more. And now that we're focusing on the business, I'm working more on the business, and he also um, manages things here at home. So
Yeah.
I'm really grateful now. We're pretty fluid in that way. Our both
You
our
make a good
roles.
team. And from the start when I met you guys, you were like, yeah, flowing. So thanks for sharing. Yes, and again, congratulations on your second baby. I saw it on Instagram and I was like, yay, two, boy and a girl. And off
Thank you.
air, I was telling Marielle how excited I am to see them both, like the curious kids, like active in your community. That will be wonderful to watch. So I want to ask you about the birth of your other baby after Craft MNL. I think it's a mompreneur story that we become creators once we become moms. Like there are a million business ideas that entered my head when I became a mom, and for you it was messy baby play. So tell us about messy baby play. What is it? And I know advocating sensory play. Why is it important to you?
Well, messy baby play actually isn't exactly my story to tell. It's something that I got into with my sister-in-law, and it for her, she discovered it. She's actually based in Australia. She discovered it when my niece was born very premature. So I think she was about 25 weeks when she was born. And so that was, I know they had a very different experience, of course, bringing her up. And very fortunately grew up in an environment where support is so much easier, I think. I
Yes.
think compared with, I don't know, here, maybe based on what I'm seeing at, just based on what I'm seeing, because
Yeah.
she goes to several different specialists just to be able to monitor and make sure that
Develop
she
develop.
develops the way she's supposed to. And she's 5 now. She's
Wow.
5 now.
Wait, let's say hi to your sister-in-law. What's her
My
name?
sister-in-law, Charlene, she's
Charlene.
in Melbourne now, Australia.
Melbourne.
Yeah.
Hello.
So she got into, so she found messy play there, and it was actually also um I think it was also two moms holding these play
Wow.
sessions for kids. So
Nice.
she really fell in love with it. And I was sold on the idea, because at that time Stella was turning 1. She was turning, wala pa siyang 1, she was turning 1. And I was looking for different ways to engage her, engage with her. So parang it's sort of like led me to learn more also, and become a little more confident um playing with my, I don't know, one of my fears kasi before motherhood was parang, I'm not that great with kids, or parang I'm not the most affectionate
Yeah.
person, parang ganun. And I remember
I
having
would
a
say me, I'm not a
conversation.
good teacher. I can learn, but I can't teach, and things like that. Not that we say I'm
I
not
know
patient.
we
Yeah.
have so many conversations in our heads, diba? And
Yes.
and a friend of mine told me that it'll just come naturally,
Mhm.
and you kind of do find that. But parang in addition to that, I'm happy to, because there's so much information out there for like new moms, and you're not quite sure what to read, or and you don't even have time to read
Info
sometimes.
overload.
I know. So but I was also coming, one of the reasons why sensory play resonated with me when my sister-in-law brought it up also was because I love the freedom it gave kids to discover. Syempre, because sensory play is any kind of play that stimulates the senses. It engages the senses of the child. So um and and of course, coming from at that time, I Stella, we were attending Rai resources for
That's
infant
right.
protection. Yeah, and what I really liked about that direction of man was the independence given to the child, just sitting back and observing. Because I mean, as a parent, like, what works for me, I'm not the kind of parent who'll be like in your face 24/7, but I'm
Yeah.
just making sure you're. I mean, I love playing, but I find so much joy with just watching
Yeah.
and observing
And
and
letting things
and
unravel in front of you like that.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So it's also, of course, independence. I think is something I highly prized growing up, and something I wanted to impart to my kids then. So that's why that comes along with it. So these different, different. Well, they're not, things just came together, a
Yeah.
convergence of different schools or principals, and
Yeah.
we may not completely agree with everything in one or the other, but I guess we take
Yeah.
what works.
That's right. Yes, you
So,
choose what you believe in, what works for you, and then do your own brand of motherhood. I mean, I believe in that too, right? So we all know what's best. So with Messy
yeah.
Baby Play, you had your own workshops as well, and I know you were like offering it to parties, like kids parties, and was it that way?
Eventually we did.
Yeah,
Eventually we did. So it
yeah,
started off as play groups.
yeah.
It just, yeah, just play groups. Just mom. It's at the time we had a teammate who was a sped teacher then. And eventually we did have some other sped teachers teach with us.
Mm.
But mostly it's mom led. So so I had to like face the music and literally start group singing sometimes, and
Yeah.
parang, alam mo yan, and things that you
Oh,
never knew or
Marielle.
thought, yeah, yeah, go theater. But yeah, so it started off as play groups. So we would have them like once a week, and then I think it became a little more frequent. So we would host them at our space in Makati where CraftMNL was. So biglang,
Yeah.
all of a sudden the studio transformed.
Are
We
you
had
still
that.
there? It's Pasay Road, right? Are you still in the same
Yes,
place?
we're still there in the same
Yeah.
building. And then biglang acrylic boards, acrylic sheets a wall because kids could draw on it.
Ah,
And alam mo yan, and it was, for me, it was really nice to see because kids like making a mess and
yeah.
doing the things that we would be horrified to have them do at home. So that was the kind of freedom I like to see, and I think so we also have a culture here. I think now, oh, dirty, dirty, oh my god, right?
Yes. Okay, let's
Sometimes
talk about that for a while. So, what happens to a kid when you allow and watch the kid explore on his own, use his hands, use his imagination without us getting into the picture and trying to control control what's happening? So, why should we allow them to just be and flow and go anywhere they want to in their minds or with their hands?
Well, borrowing from something I heard from Montessori naman, diba? Play is the work of the child, diba?
Yeah.
So and they're so intense. When you leave them alone, they're so intense. Especially when they're exploring different mediums na parang sometimes, alam mo yun, the different materials we would come out. Kasi how a play group would go was we would have like 5 sensory stations. And we want to make it different, like there's wet, there's dry, there's one on the floor for kasi there's one on the floor, there's one na mataas. Kasi apart from exploring with their senses, there's also the gross motor skills,
Yes, their
sitting
body.
down, getting up, painting, painting a whole wall like that. And then, of course, the fine motor skills. There's also a Play-Doh station where they really
Remember you
exercise
had
their
kinetic
muscles.
sand and all. Yeah.
So, and then the materials that we came up at first, parang sometimes they were, alam mo yun, we had have shaving cream with sago. I don't know if it's whipped cream or shaving cream. I think it was, but it was just so fun to like putting your
Fun.
hand in, and even for grown-ups, it was kind of liberating to just dip your hand into a
Actually.
tub full of jelly. But that's things that we would never do, or we would, yeah, we wouldn't be allowed to
Actually,
do.
in your mind, you're thinking, Messy, exactly your brand. Oh no,
Yeah.
mess.
Oh my gosh. Or get paint all over there. No, or at one session, yeah, we have a flour bin and we put like cloud dough. So it's basically a mixture of flour with vegetable oil. And so it has this consistency na parang super fine sand. And then one time, like my daughter looked like an espasol. So she was all like white. Or we'd have kids who'd step into the bins, who'd step into the yeah, their parents would let them, which is wonderful, I think. Diba? Parang,
Yes,
okay, here you are. So they'd be wearing, of course, I know, aprons and old clothes. And it was, I don't know, for me, it was so nice to watch both the kids and the parents actually sometimes playing together because they'd play together, they'd observe, step back, or
without a care, right? Without thinking,
yeah,
oh.
'cause you don't have to worry about the mess. And so that's what these play sessions were like. And so, of course, after that, the pandemic hit and we couldn't do them anymore. We had to shift focus. And first, we and focused on selling some of the sensory material because some of the sensory material that we used for the sessions, they're curated actually, especially by my sister-in-law. Um, and we found materials like super quick jelly to make.
Oh, nice. And then the
So we
parents
would
could do it
actually
at
pour
home.
them. Yeah, just add water, whether hot or cold, and it'd be like this jelly. This when our first item was jelly bath, and that's what it basically was. It was a powder you add water to, whether hot or cold, so it's a different sensory experience. And then yeah, actually it's marketed as a bath toy. You can put it in your bathtub and you can bathe in it.
Wow. Are you still selling those now, Marielle?
We actually are. We actually are
Mhm.
right now on our website. That's what we have. And
CraftMNL.com?
on messybabyplay.com.
Messybabyplay.com.
Yeah. So you
Wow.
have a different website naman for that.
Great.
And we focused on also like different toys, developmental toys or sensory toys. So we brought in some of these sensory blocks, which are super fun. I don't know, whenever there's sensory play stuff, me as an adult,
Yeah.
I get excited and I say, you know what, this is the best thing for stress relief.
Yes.
Slime making for grown-ups and making
Yeah.
play-doh, kneading things with your hands. Sometimes these are
And,
things that even
and actually,
grown-ups needed.
my friend Jeannie Castillo, you might know her of Kinder Music. We did Stella with Kinder Music. She's a teacher, right? So now she's during the pandemic, she got certificate certified in neuro movement development. So now she talks about how um the baby mover bodies and things we do with our hands actually connects neural pathways in our brain. So I was talking to my son earlier about how my balance is so bad. My sense of balance is so bad. Like he was telling me, "Mom, I just noticed your body's so awkward." I was like, "Ouch," because we're trying to
Thanks,
see.
son.
Right? And I said, maybe because I was the sixth of seven kids, so my mom was so busy. Of course, like how can she make me do like fine motor stuff when I was young? I'm sure like I missed out on stuff. And with our kids now, like if we carry them too much, like from crawling to walking, if they're carried too much, there are actually connections that don't happen if they don't go through the right, like crawling, like on their backs, crawling, then standing on their own, then walking. Like if we rush through it, put them in walkers, there might be connections that don't happen. But now that we're adults, we can still make those, because of neuroplasticity, we can make those neural
Okay,
pathways connect. So what you're
there's
doing,
hope.
with the sensory play and with adults also, is that you're actually making the neurons connect in the brain. So maybe that's like you should talk to Jeannie, but it's so interesting because I'm actually going to ask her, what can I do for my sense of balance? Because my son is like, Mom, you're so awkward. But I think maybe that's why we feel different, like when we touch yucky, messy things, like maybe because we were hindered from doing that. Like, of course, our parents were different from us, right? They were like, oh, lalabhan, mahirap labhan. Tapos those laundry soap commercials. Right? And we're afraid of getting messy and all. for sure we missed out on something, not only experience wise, but maybe the neural pathways. Getting geeky, but let's think about that. I mean, maybe you can look into that too. I'm sure you're helping people like develop a lot of things, especially kids. And especially now our kids are so urbanized, like they live in condos and stuff. And like I remember a friend of mine said that she met a kid once who thought that fruits grew on they didn't know that fruits grew on trees. Like they thought it was because a grocery, right? They didn't, I mean, if you don't explain it, then and now with the pandemic, there's a lot of worry about babies who were born during the pandemic and had to stay home for 2 years. I remember when Manila opened up and moms were bringing their below 2-year-old kids. Like, this is the first time he's on an escalator and the first time she's, maybe there's more need to make them like do sensory stuff. What do you think, Marielle?
That makes complete sense, I think.
Yeah.
Kasi parang if the different, I guess the stimulation of the different senses
Yeah.
is beneficial, not just for younger kids, but older kids. My 4-year-old still loves it,
Yeah.
and myself as an adult, I find it very, very freeing playing with the different sensory material. We've actually at Craft Cassette during the pandemic, we did a lot of corporate like team buildings and a lot of corporate gigs, and that's actually how we got by. I've actually tried pushing sensory play for grown-ups. It's just hard to sell, I guess, at the moment. It's an audience to be developed, I think, for our people to silly play for grown-ups, siguro, something like that.
Now with the pandemic, that might be a good jump off point because people need to be in touch again with their senses. We were all like stuck at home. So that's interesting for grown-ups. That's a good idea.
It is. We actually tried putting a bit of that into one of the workshops that we recently offered, and it's still actually under development, but the creative journaling and aromatherapy session we had. So it was sort of like, it was sensory in the sense na there's aromatherapy, but I put in a can of Play-Doh in there actually because kneading it and putting a bit of essential oil in it, while journaling and or doodling, something like that was that's
actually
fun.
part of mindfulness, right? Is to be aware of your senses, like be in the present. So I would love that if you came up with a program for adults. I mean, that's fun.
Yeah, well, I guess nowadays people are also more open to things like that because of the stress, or at least the emphasis on wellness nowadays.
Right.
It's not just the kids who are locked up indoors; it's the grown-ups, and I think the emphasis on mental health
Yes, that's right.
is a manifestation of everything that we've been going through, not just being held indoors, but also collective grief, collective frustration.
Right. And also a lot of letting go, right? Like for goal-oriented people, they had to let go of dreams and plans. And I think to lessen anxiety of that, like overthinking and the overthinking mind, over analytical mind, is to just draw in the present. So, and play is a great way to do that. Play, dance, and singing, and creating, making stuff. So
making, definitely, it's I know for me, like from the get-go, from the beginning, it's I don't know, it's empowering. At the same time, it's stress relieving, and you see it manifested kasi in a lot of different ways. And when I say craft, you think of we're just like sewing, we're making soap, we're making candles, we're making doing woodworking stuff. But for me kasi it's a maker mindset in a way And it manifests for a lot of different people in different ways, because they might say, I'm not a baker, I'm not a crafter, I'm not an artist,
Yeah.
I'm not a,
Or some they say
but
I'm not creative,
you're
right?
an entrepreneur. You
Yeah.
created something, maybe you're the best at making spreadsheets, which I think is incredibly
That's right.
admirable.
Yeah.
And those things, you get the same, the same rewards, the same dopamine high when you accomplished some things. And
True.
it's and done again and again. It
Yes.
manifests in
And you have
different
new
ways.
skills too. So yeah.
That's that, yes,
So
yes,
Marielle, what
absolutely.
do you say? I'd like you to talk to moms who say that um they're afraid. They're afraid to try new things. Like, I can't do that. I'm not a crafter. I'm not creative. I'm not good with my hands. I hear that a lot. And the funny thing is
Mm-mm.
I hear it in our Expo Kid events, in the events where they try to push their kids to take an art class or do a dance class or sports. But they themselves are like, I guess I would have that too. Like I would never probably take swimming class or something. Pero my kid, I'm like, oy anak, kaya mo yan anak. Right? So what do
But
we,
there's
yeah.
something in as a parent, and
Mm.
you gotta modeling is one thing, being able to model things. So we've actually in our classes we've hosted moms na there's some workshops for the moms. It's their first time away from their babies. It's
Ah,
happened a few times, and so we have conversations during workshops about that, and yeah, it's the time they take out for themselves. Just physically being away, because sometimes you kind of need that.
yeah.
And the thing with the labels, and I'm not a maker, I'm not a crafter, I'm not, I know. One of the things kasi at Craft MNL that we do, I mean, it's not parang it's the beauty of uh of having a lot of like courses that are great for beginners.
Yeah.
That's just something to try. Just something to try. You don't have to be the super hot shot at it. You might be just slightly interested in it. But what we're pretty mindful about, especially since we had to translate a lot of our workshops to online, and of course to different audiences who may or may not actually want to join, but it's just part of work and it's part of team building. And one of the responsibilities that we take on is that we try to make it an enjoyable experience.
Yeah.
For it's not about finishing something that you can post on Instagram. For some it might be that. For
Yes.
some it might be that, but
Yeah.
it's not about that for everyone. So it's basically parang, oh, kaya ko naman pala eh. Or alam mo yon, just the act of trying.
Yeah. Act of trying.
Parang,
Right.
I've never done this before.
Yeah.
And when you do something that you've never done before, because it feels pretty liberating. It feels pretty great. And parang in a way, it's not just it's not just self-care. It's for moms or for parents. Parang you're basically, by doing this for yourself, you're also opening doors for your kids in a way or in a sense. Because it's really important to be able to model things for them. So parang if I find myself in a situation like my daughter goes, oh, mommy, dance, dance. Oh my God, I'm not the dancing type, but okay, but all right, we'll do it. Just to show her, yeah, especially now, kasi parang, being indoors during the pandemic, parang she's also grown all of these, I don't know, it could also be the age, a lot of irrational fears and being shy and things like that. And so parang, I don't know if it's going to turn her off, or because she's a different person in herself. So parang, I don't know if it's going to turn her off if she sees mommy being like, oh, super go, like, all right, let's
I think
do
you'll still
this.
be cool. She's 4. You're still a cool mom.
Oh, that's good. I still have a few more years, no?
Yes, few more years.
Love me no matter what. But I think I would like for her, at least for my kids, to be able to see, parang, okay, mommy and daddy are so
Yeah.
parang trying to be the things that we hope them to be. Alam mo yun? Parang, okay, I want my kids to be outdoorsy. oh, I gotta dust off that bike, or I'm
Right.
so tamad to get out of bed on weekends because I don't want to exercise, but I want my kids to be interested in
Yeah,
sports.
right.
um, that's kind of, those are the things that, like, as a parent, you you have you find yourself in.
Yeah.
And
That's why they
so
also say that motherhood can actually bring out the best in us because there are things that we do that we never thought we would do. So things like that. And if we allow
yeah,
it to happen, then we can also grow with them.
exactly, it is. it,
Yeah.
it, it is that growing with your kids, I think that's what that parenting is, because
Yeah.
parang we are, in almost every sense of the word, growing alongside them in different ways.
Yes, right.
And I don't know, I think parenting is a great excuse to just, it's a
Yeah.
good, for me, it's a great excuse to just, my kid kasi wants to,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna,
Because he wants you to dance.
my kid wants me to dance. Sorry, guys.
Sorry, yeah.
There with my, something like that. Or, oh
Yeah.
my gosh, I don't want my kid to hear me say, I can't sing. Sorry, guys, I'm just
Yeah.
gonna sing. So,
That's so
parang
true.
ganun.
It's true. Yeah. So moms, don't hesitate to try. I mean, it's scary because the world is a judgmental place. But
I know.
really, the only person you owe any explanation to is your child and yourself at a certain point, right?
I think it's one of the gifts of parenting in midlife, because you kind of
Yeah.
don't care at
Yeah.
this
That's
point. When
true.
you turn 40, it's kind of, about, okay. So
That's
the things that
true.
you were kind of scared, if you're afraid of judgment, there's still fear, of course, but
Yeah.
a little less so.
That's true. Okay, so with that, I love that last message, Marielle, and it really says a lot. I mean, that's something that you really reflect in your own motherhood and also in your community. So I'm happy that Craft MNL is still it was able to pivot is the word for mompreneurs through the
Oh,
pandemic.
here's all my gray hair to prove it, and thinning hair as well,
You're
but
looking good. You're looking well.
thank you.
Blooming mom of two.
Oh, good.
So could we invite everyone to check out what you have online? I know that you always have it in your website and your social media. Tell us about your classes, even if it's minimized, but still there, it's still available to everyone, especially all mommies. So
One
invite.
of the nice things about, kasi some of the classes that we have now, since we're limiting the number, we were hosting more families. So I see more moms with kids or siblings coming together to make together. Um, well, at CraftMNL, you can find our workshops on craftmnl.com. So right now we're offering our usual workshops of, like, cold process soap making, candle making, scented candle making, basic sewing machine. We have more actually in line, like more coming up. But we're focusing on just a few first, and then
Yes.
sort of like expanding to inviting other makers who are also more comfortable na rin with teaching in person or online. Pwede rin. Of course, there's also woodworking. So we both
Yes,
also expanded
my son
our,
Zach took leather pala. He took
yes, he
leather.
did. And I hope he's still making. So there's
He's
so my
buying
husband teaches
supplies.
that.
Does he teach that? Lex teaches that?
Yeah, Lex teaches woodworking. Just the
Woodworking?
woodworking. Oo.
Yeah.
And then of course for summer we're increasing our offerings. So we're actually having online cooking classes for kids and for grown-ups. I find them terribly interesting because you're making pasta from scratch. So it's like,
So
it's
cool.
nice for
Do the
kids.
ingredients or the
For
materials get sent to them, to the houses?
for this one, no, not really.
So you
Nah.
have to
It's
source. You have to source.
yeah.
Okay.
So our ano is make if it's something you're doing with your kids, make grocery lists.
Yeah.
Going shopping, make it a thing. It's an additional thing that you can do together. That's your
Yeah.
life skills din yun. So yeah, what else are we offering? So
Fun. How about for
we
messy?
have, for Messy, of course, just visit messybabyplay.com. We're still selling a lot of our sensory materials and our toys. So we actually have these really cool sensory blocks which kids can play with. They're wood and acrylic, and I would show you some. I
Fun.
don't have them right now. Yeah, we've got that on our website.
Okay.
And we're kind of taking things by ear. We also have rentals for the large trays for the folks who are having celebrations at home, intimate gatherings. So we send them to you pre-packed, and we prepare all the materials
Oh,
beforehand.
nice.
So yeah, and you can rent it for a week. So either the large floor bins for like bigger celebrations, or if your kids feel like getting into the floor bins themselves, that's also nice. We also have the option for smaller trays, so that, I mean, it's for some it's a treat. It's like a weekend treat for some moms. It's something different from what they usually
Yeah.
do. So we also actually had a play club, which we're relaunching still. So it's more like a toy library, because we acquired all of these toys, and parang it's I think it's a good way for parents to figure out what toys to invest in.
Yes. So
Parang,
they can borrow the toys from your collection.
yes, they can borrow the toys. And sometimes it also comes with sensory materials because we have specials. So they can borrow that and yeah, return it. And if if their kids are interested in it, some parents have actually asked us, oh, where did you buy this? Or where did you get that? And if we don't carry it, we
Yeah.
actually assist them in locating what their kids are interested in. So as a parent, I think it's pretty valuable, because for me, I'm fortunate enough to have access to that library of toys. I have my kids play with it and see
Yeah.
what clicks, what I
Yeah.
have to invest in siguro later on. So that's I think a benefit of
That's
we're
great.
relaunching that. So that's something to look forward to. On Instagram, it's at Messy Baby Play. And my sister-in-law, who does most of the posting there, there's a wealth of ideas for kids, for babies, for toddlers, and for parents who need a bit of assistance in
Yeah.
figuring out what to do with their kids,
That's
how to play, maybe, or at least what
yeah.
to offer, what invitations to play to prepare for their kids for sensory play.
Oh, that's so wonderful. I love it. I'm gonna go to your website also because I love those things. So thank you for offering that. And as I said, for all of us who just emerged from the from the pandemic, being stuck at home, I think that's something that our kids will really love, especially the below two toddlers, right? So thank you, Marielle. I love this time with you and learning about where you are at now, and also love hearing the stories of Craft MNL and Messy Baby Play, and how you guys are evolving through the times and with your life together with Lex.
Evolving talaga eh.
Hopefully, your makers markets will happen soon too, right? So let's pray for that. So
Yeah.
thank you, Marielle, and hope to have you again here in You the Mom and in our Mommy Mundo events.
Thank you, Janice. Thank you. Thank you very much for this platform and for reaching out to other moms. I'm sure Mommy Mundo has been a great resource and inspiration for a lot of moms out there.
Thank you. Same with Craft MNL for all crafters and makers. So congratulations on your 10th year.
Thank you. Thank you. Gosh.
Okay, thanks, Marielle. Okay, so
All
thank you
right.
everyone for listening to You the Mom. We'll catch you next time. Bye.